Snow hammered against the little wooden house at the edge of the forest, turning everything white and silent. Inside, 6-year-old Emily pressed her face to the frosted window, watching the storm swallow the world outside. But then, she saw movement. 2 tiny shapes, shivering violently in the snow. 2 German Shepherd puppies, frozen, trembling, their coats covered in ice. Their eyes locked with hers. Pleading Dot without thinking, Emily ran outside, the cold slicing into her skin. "Come here." "Please," she whispered, tears freezing on her cheeks. The puppies tried to stand but collapsed again. She scooped them up, carried them inside, wrapped them in blankets, and kept whispering, "You're safe now." But Emily didn't know something important. Those puppies were being hunted. Someone wanted them found. Someone dangerous. And by sunrise, flashing blue and red lights would surround her entire home because saving those puppies would uncover a secret no one was prepared for. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The winter storm rolled over Maplewood like a living creature, growling, clawing, shaking every window it touched. Snowflakes weren't falling gently from the sky. They were being hurled sideways by the wind, slamming against rooftops and piling up across the empty roads. Inside a small house at the end of Willow Street, 8-year-old Emily sat curled up on the living room couch, hugging her knees and listening to the storm rage outside. Her home wasn't in the best shape. Doors that creaked, windows that whistled in the wind, and a heater that often failed when she needed it most. Emily pressed her face closer to the icy window, squinting through the swirling snow. The shapes grew clearer, 2 animals dragging themselves forward, their legs trembling, their bodies collapsing with each step. At first, Emily thought they were wolves, but as they reached the edge of her porch light, she gasped softly. They were dogs, but both of them looked broken. One was a black and tan German Shepherd, his fur coated in frost, eyes half open like he was fighting to stay awake. The other was a lean brown mixed breed, with snow stuck to his whiskers and patches of ice clinging to his tail. They moved like they had been running for miles. And running out of time, Emily's heart squeezed painfully. She knew what frostbite looked like. She'd seen stray cats in winter who never survived the night. These dogs were worse. Much worse. One of them tried to bark, but the sound came out as a weak whine before he collapsed fully onto her welcome mat. The second dog nudged him with his nose, trying desperately to keep him awake, but he too sank down, shivering uncontrollably. Emily's breath hitched. They were dying. She didn't wait. She didn't think. She just moved. She grabbed the lantern, rushed to the front door, and turned the old rusted lock. But she didn't care. She pushed the door wider and whispered shakily, "It's okay. Come inside. Please." He tried to stand, but his legs slipped on the slick porch. Emily dropped to her knees and scooped her arms under him, dragging him gently across the threshold. Her small frame struggled under his weight, but adrenaline pushed her forward. When he was finally inside, she turned to the German Shepherd. His breathing was shallow. His paws were stiff. Emily's eyes filled with panic. "Don't die. Please don't die," she whispered. And with every ounce of strength she had, she pulled him into the warmth of her home. The moment Emily dragged the German Shepherd inside, the door slammed shut behind her, rattling in its frame as the storm howled outside. The sudden silence in the house felt heavy, broken only by the soft whimpers of the freezing dogs. Lying on her wooden floor, Emily dropped to her knees beside them. "It's okay. You're safe," she whispered, though her voice shook with worry. She grabbed the thickest blanket she could find, a faded blue quilt her mother used in winter, and wrapped it around both dogs, tucking the edges carefully like she was tucking in a baby. They were intelligent, almost grateful. The German Shepherd followed, pressing his cold nose against her wrist as if memorizing her scent. Emily's heart swelled. She didn't know who they belonged to or where they came from, but she knew one thing: they trusted her. She ran to the kitchen, returning with a bowl of warm water. The dogs lapped at it eagerly, tongues trembling, breaths coming faster as life slowly returned to them. Emily stroked their heads gently, feeling heat slowly push away the icy chill that clung to their fur. "They must have been out there all night," she murmured. "How did you survive the storm?" But even as she spoke, she noticed something strange. Around the German Shepherd's neck was a torn collar, not a cheap one, but the heavy-duty type used for trained working dogs. And the way they positioned themselves, one facing the door, the other staying close to her, felt intentional, protective. Emily's eyebrows furrowed. "Were you running from something?" she whispered. The German Shepherd's ears twitched. His eyes sharpened. He slowly pushed himself up on his front paws, staring toward the door as if expecting danger. Emily swallowed hard. Whatever these dogs had escaped from might not be far behind. For a few minutes, the house felt calm. Just Emily, the soft glow of the lantern, and the quiet breathing of the two recovering dogs. But that calmness shattered when the German Shepherd suddenly stiffened, lifting his head sharply as if someone had flipped a switch inside him. His ears perked. His eyes narrowed. A low growl rumbled from his throat, deep and warning. Emily froze. "What is it?" she whispered, her heartbeat quickening. Both dogs stared at the front door. The wind outside roared. Snow slammed into the windows, but beneath the storm's violence, Emily heard something else. A crunch. Not snow being blown. Not tree branches cracking. Footsteps. Slow, dragging. Heavy footsteps moving across her porch. No one should be outside in such a dangerous storm, not even her neighbors. The roads were closed. The power was out across half the town. Police had issued warnings for everyone to stay inside. Who would be walking around now? The German Shepherd rose to all fours despite his exhaustion, planting himself in front of Emily, body tense like a shield. Emily clutched the edge of the blanket. "Is someone out there?" Another noise. A faint metallic clatter near the porch railing, like someone brushing against it or holding something metal. The shepherd growled louder now, his fur bristling, teeth bared, but silent enough to avoid announcing the house was occupied. The brown dog pressed his nose against the door, sniffing rapidly, then stepped back with a soft whine. Emily's breath came fast and shallow. She glanced at the window, but it was too fogged and coated in ice to see anything past the swirling snow. Then, suddenly, knock, not a gentle one, a sharp, heavy, deliberate thud that echoed through the entire house. Emily flinched. The dogs lunged toward the door but stopped themselves, standing guard. Whoever it was wasn't asking for help. They were checking if someone was inside, and Emily realized with a terrified swallow that the dogs hadn't stumbled here by accident. They had led danger right to her home. The knock faded into the roar of the storm, but its echo clung to the walls like a shadow. Emily stood frozen, her small hands gripping the edge of the couch as if it were the only thing keeping her steady. The dogs hadn't moved. They stayed rigid, muscles tight, eyes locked on the door as though they expected it to burst open at any moment. Minutes passed. The storm continued to scream. No more knocks. No footsteps. Nothing. But the silence only made it worse. Emily swallowed hard and whispered, "Maybe it was just the wind." Even though she knew the truth, wind didn't knock. Wind didn't drag its feet across a wooden porch. Wind didn't make two trained dogs stare at the door like it was their sworn enemy. The German Shepherd slowly stepped to the window, pushing aside the curtain with his nose. His breath fogged the glass, but he didn't look away. The brown dog sat beside Emily, keeping his body pressed against her leg as if anchoring her in place. She hesitated, then quietly turned off the lantern. Darkness swallowed the room, but the dog seemed to prefer it that way. Their senses sharpened. Their ears twitched. They were listening to things Emily couldn't hear. "Are they gone?" she whispered. The shepherd didn't answer, of course. But the way he positioned himself, front paws planted firmly, head low, eyes scanning the snow-covered yard, told her everything. The threat wasn't gone. It was waiting. Emily curled up beside the brown dog, wrapping the blanket around both of them. His warmth calmed her, trembling just a little. She rested her head on his side, feeling the slow rise and fall of his breath. All night long, the dogs didn't sleep. Every time the wind shifted, the shepherd's head snapped up. Every time a tree creaked, the brown dog moved closer to Emily. Their eyes never closed. Their bodies stayed tense and ready. For the first time in her life, Emily was afraid to see morning. When Emily finally drifted into a light, uneasy sleep, the storm had begun to quiet. The thunderous wind softened into a distant howl, and the heavy snowfall slowed to a gentle whisper. The dogs still stood guard, their eyes fixed on the door, their bodies refusing to rest. But the moment dawn approached, the world outside erupted again, not with a storm, but with something far more alarming. The first sound was a loud engine rumble. Then another. Then several more. Emily jolted awake as bright light flashed across her living room wall, moving, sweeping, searching. The dogs reacted instantly. The German shepherd leapt to the window, barking sharply. Emily scrambled to her feet, heart pounding. "What's happening? What is that?" The answer came seconds later. Sirens. Multiple sirens, growing louder, closer, surrounding her home. Emily rushed to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to peek outside. Her breath caught in her throat. Police cars. Not one. Not two. 5 police cruisers, headlights cutting through the morning fog, tires crunching the snow as they formed a perimeter around her house. 2 officers jumped out, hands on their weapons. Another shouted into a loudspeaker, his voice booming through the freezing air. "Stay inside the house. Do not open the door." Emily stumbled backward, terrified. What did I do?" she whispered. The shepherd barked again, louder, sharper, pushing her further away from the door, as if he feared someone might force their way in. The brown dog circled her, whining anxiously. Outside, more officers arrived, some with flashlights, others with radios pressed to their ears. Neighbors peeked from their windows, confused and alarmed. The entire neighborhood seemed to be waking up to the chaos unfolding on Willow Street. Emily's small house had become the center of attention. Emily felt her knees weaken as the police cars continued circling her yard. Red and blue lights flashed violently against the snow, making the world outside look like it was on fire. She pressed her back to the wall, clutching the brown dog closer while the German shepherd stood protectively in front of her, barking in deep, thunderous bursts. A voice boomed from the loudspeaker again. "This is the police. If anyone is inside, step away from the door. Do not approach the windows." Emily's breath hitched. Why were they shouting? Why were they treating her house like a crime scene? She peeked again through a tiny slit in the curtain. Officers with rifles moved across her lawn, boots sinking into deep snow. One officer adjusted his radio, speaking urgently. Another approached the porch steps, his gloved hand raised toward her door, as if expecting something or someone to burst out. The shepherd barked harder. His body pressed against the window as though he could stop anyone from coming inside. The brown dog moved in front of Emily, blocking her with his entire body. "Are they here for you?" Emily whispered to them, voice trembling. The shepherd didn't look back. He growled at the movement outside, ears pinned, tail stiff. He was ready to fight. The brown dog whined, urging Emily backward, guiding her deeper into the room. Then bang. Bang! Bang! The front door shook violently as an officer pounded on it. "Open the door." "Police!" Emily screamed and fell to her knees. The dogs launched forward, teeth bared not at her, but at the door, placing themselves between her and the officers as if they believed she was the one in danger. Emily Carter. The officer shouted. Her heart dropped into her stomach. They knew her name. Emily, step away from the door. We are not here to hurt you, but this is an emergency situation. Emergency? For what? Please, Emily cried out, voice cracking. I didn't do anything. Outside, an officer shouted, we have visual movement inside. Prepare to breach. The two dogs stiffened. Emily covered her ears. Police weren't just asking to come in. They were seconds away from forcing their way inside, before the officers could breach the door. The German shepherd threw himself against it, growling, barking, refusing to let anyone come through. His claws scraped the wood, his teeth flashing as he warned whoever stood outside that he would not let them near Emily. The brown dog joined him, planting his paws firmly on the floor, stance low and ready. But he wasn't just being aggressive, he was being strategic. He positioned himself sideways, blocking Emily from view while keeping one eye on the shepherd and one eye on her. It was as if he was coordinating with his partner, protecting their new human. Emily wiped her tears and stared at them in confusion and awe. Why won't you let them in? She whispered. They're the police. They're supposed to help. But the shepherd growled even louder the moment the doorknob rattled. His fur stood on end, his ears pinned flat. Every muscle in his body was braced like he expected a threat, not rescue. Outside, the officers seemed confused too. Why are the dogs acting defensive? One officer murmured. Another responded, that's not normal behavior. Not unless they're protecting something. Or someone. Emily's name echoed again through the loudspeaker. Emily Carter, we need you to come to the door. You are not in trouble, please confirm you are safe. The shepherd barked sharply, pacing in front of the door, refusing to give her even an inch of space to move toward it. The brown dog nudged her back again, guiding her deeper into the hallway, away from visible windows, away from possible danger. Emily clutched the blanket to her chest, trembling. Who are you two? She whispered. For a moment, the shepherd looked at her, really looked at her, as if trying to communicate something urgent. His breath was steady now, but his eyes were fierce, unwavering. The brown dog nudged her hand, letting out a soft whine that almost sounded like reassurance. Another shout came from outside. We're surrounding the perimeter. Nobody leaves the house. Emily's heart pounded. The dogs weren't reacting like pets. They were reacting like trained protectors, K-9 level protectors, and whatever they were protecting her from. The police clearly hadn't told her yet. The shepherd growled again, low and rumbling, positioning himself directly in front of her. The brown dog stayed pressed against her leg, trembling not from fear, but from anticipation. Something big was about to happen. Then knock, knock, knock. This time softer. Controlled. A different voice spoke, calm, steady, but serious. Emily, this is Captain Harris. We know you're frightened. You're not in trouble. But we need to talk to you about the two dogs inside. Emily froze. Her eyes flicked to the shepherd, who stared at the door with laser focus. Captain Harris continued. Those dogs didn't just wander into your neighborhood. They belong to us. They're part of an active police investigation. Emily's breath caught. Police dogs? But they had no vests. No working collars. Both looked beaten and exhausted. The captain went on. We've been searching for them since last night. They went missing while tracking a dangerous suspect. Emily swallowed hard. Suspect? She whispered. The shepherd growled, confirming the fear in her voice. Yes, Harris said. A man we've been trying to catch for months. Extremely dangerous, armed, and he was last seen in your area. Emily's stomach dropped. Our dogs followed his trail through the storm, Harris continued. They were our only hope of finding him. But somewhere along the line, something happened. They disappeared from our trackers. Emily crouched beside the brown dog, her fingers shaking as she stroked his fur. "Is that why they came here?" she whispered. "Were they running?" The captain sighed heavily. "We don't know. But we do know one thing. They led us straight to this house. And when trained dogs bring us somewhere, it's never by accident." Emily felt the shepherd's tail stiffen, his body tense again, whatever truth the police were about to reveal. "Emily, the man our canine units were tracking isn't just any suspect. He's someone we've been hunting for weeks. A home invader. A stalker. Someone who targets houses where only a child or a woman is home." Emily's legs went weak. The shepherd seemed to sense her fear. He stepped closer, pressing his warm body against her leg, steadying her like a guardian. Outside, officers shifted, boots crunching in the snow as tension thickened around the house. Captain Harris continued. "Last night, during the storm, he broke into a house 2 streets away from yours. The family escaped, but he vanished into the blizzard. Our dogs picked up his trail immediately." Emily wrapped her arms around herself. The brown dog nudged her hand, urging her to breathe. "The dogs chased him for miles," the captain said. "We tracked them through alleys, backyards, even across a frozen creek, until their signal went dead." Emily whispered, "Because their collars were broken." "Yes," Harris replied. "Something or someone tore them off. And they didn't just stop chasing him. They ran harder, faster. They chased him all the way to your street." Emily's eyes widened. The German shepherd turned toward the hallway suddenly, ears twitching, nose lifting as if scenting something lingering in the air. Captain Harris continued, voice grim, "The last place the dog's trackers showed movement was right near your home. That means the suspect was here, on this street, possibly on your porch." Emily felt the world tilt. Her eyes drifted to the front door, the same door someone had knocked on in the middle of the storm. The dogs had reacted. They had stood guard. They had refused to sleep. And suddenly, it all made sense. "These dogs risked their lives," Harris finished. "They got injured, exhausted, and nearly froze trying to follow him." Emily's voice trembled. "So, the man they were chasing?" "Yes, Emily," Harris said quietly. "He didn't vanish into the storm." Captain Harris's voice softened, but the story he told only made the air inside Emily's house grow colder. "Emily, you need to understand what these dogs went through." The German shepherd paced slowly toward the window again, his nose pressed against the glass, scanning the snowy yard as if reliving everything. The brown dog stayed beside Emily, leaning his warm body against her leg in a quiet promise. "I won't let anything hurt you." Harris continued from outside, his words steady and chilling. "Right after the suspect vanished, our canine South picked up his fresh scent. They followed him through narrow alleys, slipping on ice, running through knee-deep snow. The storm kept getting stronger, but they didn't stop, not even when visibility dropped to nothing." Emily pictured the 2 dogs, cold, exhausted, pushing through a blizzard with nothing but instinct and training guiding them. "They tracked him across the old bridge," Harris said. "Halfway across, he tried to throw them off. He broke sections of the railing loose, forced them into a snowbank, and fought them using metal scraps he found on the ground." Emily gasped softly, looking at the torn fur and scratches along the dog's legs. It wasn't frostbite alone. They had been attacked. The German shepherd's collar was ripped off during the fight. The brown one took a heavy hit to the ribs. But even injured, even freezing, they didn't give up. They kept chasing him. The shepherd let out a low growl at the memory, eyes locked on the backyard as if expecting the man to step out of the shadows again. Eventually, the suspect slipped away in the whiteout, Harris said. By the time our units caught up, the dogs were gone. They must have chased him through old service roads, then into the cluster of trees behind your house. Emily's breath trembled, and that's where they lost him. That's where they collapsed from exhaustion. They were half-conscious, freezing, and hurt. They stumbled around until they saw the closest light they could find. Emily's fingers trembled as she stroked the brown dog's fur. Everything the captain said echoed in her mind, each detail heavier than the last. The dogs hadn't curled up on her porch by accident. They had dragged themselves there after fighting through a storm. To reach her, Captain Harris continued, voice steady but urgent. Emily, these dogs didn't just survive the night. They protected your home the entire time. They stayed awake even when their bodies were giving out. That kind of behavior only means one thing. The shepherd turned from the window, staring back at Emily with intense, almost human focus. They believed the suspect wasn't gone. Emily's heart skipped. Harris spoke again. We think he tried to get into your house last night. That knocking you heard? It wasn't the storm. He was checking if anyone was home. The dogs stopped him. Emily felt the blood drain from her face. The brown dog nudged closer, pressing his head against her shoulder. The warmth of his fur and the steady rhythm of his breath gave her the smallest bit of comfort, but only a little. The dogs positioned themselves between you and the door, Harris explained. That's not random. That's protective canine behavior. They saw you as a child in danger. Emily swallowed hard. You weren't just kind to them, Harris continued. You were lucky they found you. The room fell silent. Emily looked back at the German shepherd, remembering how he growled at every noise, how he stood guard the entire night, how he didn't sleep, even when his body was failing. Now it all made sense. He wasn't just a dog seeking shelter. He was a trained guardian refusing to abandon her. The brown dog lifted his head suddenly, ears twitching. The shepherd followed with a sharp growl, staring down the hallway. Emily frowned. What is it? Neither dog blinked. Their bodies stiffened. Their noses lifted. Harris's voice cut through the silence. Emily, stay away from the windows. If those dogs sense something, you need to trust them. Emily stepped back, heart racing again. The dogs weren't acting strange. They were warning her of something new. It was a certainty. Something or someone was inside the perimeter. Emily stepped back slowly, her eyes wide. Why are they acting like that? She whispered. Neither dog looked at her. Both stared down the hallway leading toward the kitchen, their bodies frozen in place, their breaths short and focused. Their tails were stiff, their paws planted firmly. Their entire posture screamed one thing. He's here, outside. Captain Harris's voice crackled over the loudspeaker. Emily, stay away from the hallway. Do not move toward the back of the house. Emily gasped. They knew. Radios exploded with urgent chatter outside. Unit 4. Movement behind the property. Thermal shows a heat signature by the fence. We've got someone crouched near the back window confirming unauthorized presence. The German shepherd suddenly lunged forward but stopped just before reaching the hallway, barking ferociously at the darkness ahead. The brown dog followed, but instead of charging, he angled himself sideways, shielding Emily behind his body. Emily clutched the couch, her throat dry. He didn't leave. The shepherd barked again once, loud, sharp, directly at the back of the house. Outside, Harris shouted. All units to the rear. Now. Boots thundered through the snow. Officers sprinted around the house. More commands erupted through radios. But inside, Emily felt like the world was shrinking to that one dark hallway. Every shadow seemed alive. Every creak of the old house felt like a footstep. Her heart pounded like a drum, echoing in her ears, then a faint tapping noise. Not from the door, not from the walls, from the back window. A slow, deliberate tap. Tap. The dogs growled as one. The shepherd bared his teeth. The brown dog crouched low, ready to pounce if needed. Emily's breath trembled as realization crashed over her. The man the dogs had chased. The man the police were hunting. The man they thought had vanished. Never left her property at all. Emily wasn't scared of storms. She'd lived through plenty. What scared her was the silence inside the house. Her mother worked night shifts at the town diner, leaving before sunset and coming back just before dawn. Emily stayed home alone most nights, waiting, counting the hours, listening to the wind, and pretending not to feel lonely. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders and walked to the window. The storm made everything outside look like a swirling white blur. Snowdrifts grew by the second. Not a single person or animal could be seen. But just as she turned away, something made her stop, a faint movement. At first, she thought it was just the wind kicking up snow. But then it came again, two blurry shapes stumbling through the storm. Emily blinked, pressing her forehead to the glass. Her heart began to race. Whatever was out there, it was heading straight toward her porch. And in the middle of such a brutal storm, nothing should have been moving at all. Something was terribly wrong. The tapping on the back window grew sharper, more desperate, more deliberate. The German Shepherd erupted in a furious bark, charging toward the sound with a force Emily hadn't seen in him before. The brown dog stayed glued to her side, pushing her back, guiding her behind the couch like a trained protector shielding a child in danger. Outside, officers shouted commands. Suspect confirmed at rear window. Units moving in. Hold positions until backup arrives. But the suspect must have heard them. Because suddenly crash. The back window shattered inward. Emily screamed, dropping to the floor. The dogs reacted instantly. The German Shepherd launched himself toward the kitchen like a missile of muscle and fury. The brown dog followed with a deep, explosive bark that echoed through the house. Shards of glass scattered across the floor, glinting like ice as the freezing wind burst through the broken window. Emily shook as she crawled behind the couch. Heart slamming against her ribs, from the kitchen came chaos. A man's panicked grunt, the scraping of feet, a heavy thud. Growling deep, violent, unrestrained. Get back! Get BSCK! Police officers yelled from outside. K9 South engaged, move in. Emily covered her ears. The sounds were terrifying, but she also knew the dogs were fighting for her. Protecting her. Doing what they were trained to do. Glass crunched under boots as officers burst through the back door seconds later. Shouts filled the house. He's on the ground. K9's got him pinned. Suspect is resisting, secure him. Emily dared to peek over the couch. The scene was overwhelming. The German Shepherd had the suspect's arm locked in his jaws, holding him down with powerful force. The brown dog guarded the man's legs, snarling every time he tried to move. Officers swarmed in, tackling the suspect, forcing his hands behind his back until suspect in custody. Emily exhaled a shaky breath she didn't know she'd been holding. One officer glanced at the dogs, awe in his eyes. If these two hadn't held him, he would have gotten away. Or worse. Emily's hands trembled. The danger was finally over, but the story wasn't finished yet. The house finally fell silent. The shouting faded. The radio stopped crackling. The suspect, handcuffed, defeated, and furious, was dragged through the snow by officers and pushed into the back of a police cruiser. Red and blue lights reflected off the icicles hanging from Emily's roof, painting the world in trembling colors of relief. Inside, Emily slowly rose from behind the couch, her knees still weak, her hands still shaking. The brown dog rushed to her first, nudging her cheek, whining softly as if asking, "Are you okay?" The German Shepherd followed, his chest rising and falling rapidly from the struggle. But his eyes softened the moment he saw her. Emily fell to her knees and wrapped her arms around both dogs, burying her face in their fur. "You saved me," she whispered, voice cracking. "You saved my life." Captain Harris stepped through the front door with 2 officers behind him. His eyes scanned the shattered window, the broken glass, the torn floorboards, and then he looked at Emily. "You're a brave girl," he said gently. "Most kids would have panicked. But you trusted the right protectors." Emily shook her head. "They protected me. I didn't protect anyone." Harris knelt beside her and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Emily, these 2 didn't just protect you tonight. They kept you alive. If they hadn't made it to your house, if they hadn't sensed the suspect was still hiding nearby, we wouldn't have gotten here in time."